Morning and welcome to CCUMC. Good to see all the visitors, all the regulars, and everybody on Zoom. It's good to see you. So, there was an elderly couple in church, and the husband turned to the wife and said, "I just led a silent tooth. What should I do?" The wife said, "Put batteries in your hearing aids." Sound of silence. Sometimes there's a good silence, like when you would put your kids to bed and the house would become so calm and peaceful and quiet. Do you remember that feeling? The feeling you get when you meditate, the quiet, the calm. When you go to your room and pray to your Father Abba. These are all good silences. But the silence I want to talk about is a different kind of silence. A silence that hurts. And we use it to hide behind. People say we are Christians or evangelicals. I have grown not to care for these two words at times because we hide behind them and remain silent when they know something is not right. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Darkness. How do I say this without offending someone or everyone? If we were supposed to embrace darkness, why did God create light? I look at darkness and light as wrong and right, good and evil. Darkness has a way of pulling us in and dragging us down into its awful depths. And we live in it. And we infect others with it. The light comes and lifts us up. And we spread. But do we spread light? Do we tell darkness to go away? Or do we hide behind the light and let the darkness go around us and infect others? So let's read John 1, 4 through 5 again. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it. I want you to think, what does it mean to you? Here's what I think it means to me. We are the light. God put it in there. Put it in there. We shine through darkness, but the darkness keeps coming and coming. I want to go back to some past sermons. Jane talked about percentages. 28% of adults and 43% under the age of 30 claim no religious affiliation, and the number is growing. 48% of U.S. adults identify as religious and spiritual, 22% spiritual and not religious. So why are we losing ground with younger generations? Pamela spoke about corruption in ideas and movements. So is it possible that Christianity has or is corrupting itself? Well, let's look back. We need to realize that the church was the one that had Jesus crucified by the Romans. Pastor Bob talked a little about immigration and why it is happening. Also about God feeding us and taking care of us. So if God feeds us and takes care of us, why are we losing members overall? Maybe it's because we are always late to the scene. We don't have a real good track record throughout history. Maybe it is because we have corrupted the idea of Jesus for our own means. So let us take a look what we have done and what we haven't done. Where were we when the Native Americans were infected with smallpox through infected blankets? The buffalo were being slaughtered and stripped of their hides, and the Native Americans were being stripped of their dignity and put on reservations where they still live today, a lot of them without clean water or electricity. Where were we when the slaves were being beaten and chained and placed on auction blocks, stripped of their clothing, stripped of their dignity? Where were we when women were trying to get the right to vote? Where were we when hundreds of thousands of Europeans were being imprisoned in German concentration camps, stripped of their dignity, and later killed? Where were we after World War II when we wouldn't let ships loaded with Jewish people into our ports of the United States? I turned my collar to the cold and damp. Where were we when the churches had their neighborhoods red flagged by banks so minorities, particularly blacks, could not get loans for housing? Where were we when black women were forced to give up their seats and dignity to white men so they could sit on the buses? Where were we during the 60s when parts of this country was trying to get equal rights and voting rights so they could live in this country with us? You know, the two greatest evangelists I ever heard or knew of would not stand up for civil rights or equal rights or voting rights. That being Billy Graham and Oral Roberts. Billy Graham later said that was the biggest mistake he ever made. Where are we when kids are being slaughtered in schools and on the streets by gun violence? And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sounds of silence. Where are we as women are being stripped of health care and the right to make choices about their own bodies? Where are we when the LGBTQ community are being targeted and told they can't be who they are and stripped of their dignity and told they can't love who they want? Where are we when the F word is flown proudly in our yards and in the back of pickup trucks? The words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and in tenement halls and whispers in the sounds of silence. Where are we as hate, bigotry, and racism runs rampant in this great country? Where are we as people come to our borders and want help? Let's look at Matthew 25, 35 through 36. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Do you realize these people are walking hundreds, thousands of miles to get here? How bad does it have to be where they're coming from? We have a hard time walking a mile to the store. Why can't we, the light, stand up and say enough is enough? Darkness, go away. Understand this, Jesus is the light, and we are followers of Jesus, so we are the light. We have the instruction manual. It's even in red letters as to how we stop darkness. Love your God with all your heart, and love your neighbors as yourself. How hard is this? Treat everyone as you want to be treated. You all know I was a pipeline welder. I traveled from Michigan to the Rocky Mountains, from Wyoming to Texas. I met a lot of people. We didn't all look the same or act the same, but we are all just trying to survive in this world. So remember, no matter what ethnic group we are, where we are from, where we are going, who we love, we are all doing the same thing, trying to survive. In closing, I want to say, yes, churches' memberships are down. Yes, we have probably corrupted Jesus for our own means. And no, we don't have a real good track record in history. It is not too late. We just need to remember, light takes over darkness. We are the light. So stand up and let your light shine bright. I think here at CCUMC, we are doing just that, standing up to darkness in our community. But now it is time to take it to the world. So when the light of Christ goes into the world today, remember, we go also. I have one last thing to read. This is written by a German pastor, Martin Niemöller. He spent from 1937 to 1945 in German prison or concentration camps. And if you get a chance, you should read this guy's biography. He was a Nazi sympathizer, and they put him in jail. And here's his poem, I guess you would call it. First they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for Jesus, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. The sound of silence. Humankind be both.